That's wonderful.
That's even better.
It's terrific. We'll talk about it. All right? Please, all right, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. It's a great privilege to introduce Pierre, and Pierre has brought this amazing contingent with him from California. I met Pierre. I think we met the first time at the third conference. I'd heard of you before then, but you came to New York in '97,
right,
and did a talk and a workshop
for
us. But you've been doing this for a very, very long time, and you know, I have to say, in fairness, that in Europe, particularly in Germany, they have a strong interest in billing Gerd Achenbach as the first philosophical counselor. This is kind of the myth of Achenbach, you know, that we've had to deal with for some time. You've heard it too. And it's almost, with them, it's a kind of proprietorship. That's the serious part. And we've had a lot of trouble with them over the years because of this tendency they have to want to own this thing. And our tendency is to want to give it away. So basically, you know, when it comes to primogenitorship, Pierre, hands down, is the first, you know, the first of our, you know, last century, to be doing this real philosophical practice as it was done of old. Pierre is the one who brought it back to life. He is the first one, and his particular, Pierre can talk to us all day. One of the things that he's best known for is this, and this is what we're going to get today about philosophical midwifery, theory and practice. I recommend this book to all of you. I think it's a wonderful book. And there are other books. Pierre has brought with us some perspectives. His Opening Mind Academy, which he runs in Southern California. 5 philosophical dialogues, which I'm going to grab now and read. I'll circulate these. It is it all relative. Pierre has been publishing, lecturing, practicing for more than half a century. So, Pierre, thank you so much for being with us
Pleasure.
today. And also, Julia.
Called Pocket Pierre.
Pocket Pierre?
Which has just been
Are these available on your website?
There are
So
two.
people can go to your website? And
There are 2 more and 3 on the way.
Pocket Pierre is on Amazon.com.
Okay, and so is philosophical midwifery. And it's
No.
all together. So, okay, so just Google Pierre, go
They're all
on to
there. You can
Amazon or
Opening Mind
whatever.
Associates.com.
You'll get Pierre, and you'll get all his books. Julia, are you coordinating the Spetschrift? Are you not coordinating
Yes,
the Spetschrift?
Yes, I am.
So you've been in touch with some of us. I've committed to writing something.
Yes.
Pierre, you know about this. It's not a surprise, right?
It's
I'm
not
not
a
spoiling
surprise.
anything. Can I say that you're going to be 90? I mean, that's unbelievable. But I mean, the rumor is that you're going to be 90.
No, this year, no, next.
Worse.
Worse?
That's worse.
Well,
Get to 89 first.
okay. Well, that usually comes first. Usually. So anyway, Julia is coordinating a compilation of works to celebrate, Pierre's
Yes, and we may
achievements.
bump it up a bit. We may get it out there a little sooner. Who knows?
Okay, well, with no further ado, Pierre, please give us the theory.
Let's play.
Let's give us the theory for for an hour, okay, and then we'll have lunch.
Let me first make a couple of comments. One of the great principles in Chinese philosophy is the rectification of names. That's central to philosophical practice, and certainly philosophical midwifery. Why? Psychology has accepted the medical model before they developed a body of knowledge to justify there being a profession. That's the fundamental problem. Why? 3 things follow the medical model: diagnosis, treatment, follow-up. They have a diagnosis, they have no specific treatment for each of the things they have diagnosed, therefore it is incapable of dealing with the problems they've discovered. Period. There's no follow-ups, obviously. The range of so-called successful treatments are minimal. Right? The great work, we can mention several of them, but essentially, let me now go back to philosophical midwifery. Before I do, though, I'd like to add something. When I was giving a talk in St. Petersburg in Russia, after the talk, a group of Russians came rushing up to me, and through translators, one fellow grabbed me. He said, "Good," he says. Kaiser, phooey. He said, then we had communism, phooey. He said, then we had your democracy, phooey. Your capitalism, phooey. Freud, absurd. We like you. He says, you're free of all of that. I said, yeah, that's right. Okay. I give a Turkey and Turkey, all right? Great audience. Curiously enough, the head of the philosophy department there at the university came up and said, we are looking for a way to cut out of the dominance of European philosophy. You're providing a way. 2 big points. Now, let me just go through this now. I'd like to just review a strange fact. I'm the fact. I started this midwifery, and by the way, we can make an easy analysis of it using Plato's allegory of the cave and the divided line. Right? As you know, each one of these, of course, is matched by the cave, and therefore we can look at this. And in the beginning, you see, I was dealing with people whose beliefs blocked them in their progress to achieve the things they most wanted to achieve. It was preeminently practical goals. What interfere with it? That book comes out of it. It's outdated, but fundamental. Why? First, let's quickly go over midwifery, all right? This was the original diagram, right? And here, the person has to be in a good state. Open, free, good state. It's at that time that they cross the boundary of what is acceptable. We call that the milieu experience. The fundamental background experience. Plato describes that with the 5 different kinds. Of course, only describes the first 4, right? Because the first is the aristocratic, and he spends many books on it. But he starts with the timocratic, right? Then he goes into the oligarchic. Then he goes good old into democracy. Then he goes into tyranny. These are not just states, they're also states of the soul, right? They're states of the soul. Now, what's interesting, see, is that when we now look at Plato and we see what he's doing, he says if you want to get people out of the cave, someone has to come down and ask them a series of questions. And those questions upset them terribly, and they want to go back into the cave, just like midwifery. Why? The imposition of a problem, what we call a pathologos, get out of the group, stay there, willpower. When the timocratic youth, and Plato, remember, he describes him as a family, a product of a family. It's the family background that's accepted as true. The family background provides the grounds for looking at yourself, gives you an image, and a boundary within which all your functions and roles play a key role. When the child steps out of that, which always takes place, that's when the imposition of the pathologos comes in. What does that mean? That means the parents now look knowing, caring, concerned to the utmost, often beautiful, and most especially sincere. It's at this moment then they use the situation where the child was escaping the boundary, whatever it is, it doesn't matter, and make that the pretense of introducing the child into the fear of fear. And the child doesn't know what kind of fear it is. You know what it is? It's fundamentally the fear of that openness. But that openness is nothing other than being open to mind. Not brain, mind. Philosophy plays with mind. All the other people are afraid of that word. We have a fear of that word. Now look here. Therefore, they take that as an excuse, and then they pounce on the kid, and they then teach him, at that moment, a new, what we now call the rule. Right? The rule of the family comes down and plays a key role. He's now a subject. He's now a subject of the family and the culture. It's also reinforced, again, by a religion that plays a role. Now look here. This is normal. This is what we've been doing. But let me tell you, we've now found something curious. And when I say we, I'm talking about the Noetic Society. The Noetic Society came out of a philosophy group that we were running at the college. And then they crowded us out, and we had to go off campus. And then we formed a group called the Noetic Society. Philosophy, as I understand it, cannot be practiced in a vacuum. You need people. You need people because you grow with people. The mind requires people. The mind requires dialogue. You can't have dialogue with strangers. So we formed a Noetic Society, incorporated in '78, where we explored dialectic as a weed and introduced philosophical midwifery then in '78, and ran programs which we're still doing. We meet every Friday night and review dreams and problems. And what's most important, we introduce the ideal of excellence. How do we do it? We say, look, it's not enough to be practical now that you're solving your problems. That you're missing out on the fun. Find out what was an early dream of yours. Right, an early dream of yours that was squashed because it may have opposed the family's dream for you. Revive it. Revive it. That's your challenge. But you have to do it with excellence. Nothing other than excellence. When people then in the group caught that idea, then they went back into writing, even back into school occasionally, often in different arts such as sculpting, music, art, painting, and especially some chose the art of dialectic. What happened? A new class of problems emerged. You see, this is practical. No. This opens up a new dimension of man, a spiritual dimension. Hey, you're now here. We're now into understanding. A new kind of understanding has to emerge. Why? Because the forces in society are afraid of the mind. That's the essential thing. We are afraid of them. We don't know what we mean by mind. What happened then? Two things of paramount importance occurred. To understand the struggles they were having, we had recourse to dreams. We tied it up later with daydreams. And finally, random thoughts, by the way. So-called random thoughts. Developed a method for exploring dreams. The same method, but applied it differently, slightly different for daydreams. There are 5 different kinds of daydreams. And then we looked at random thoughts. What is interesting about this? It is really astonishing. You then have to deal with the mind. See, before this you didn't have to deal with the mind. Now you have to. Why? If you follow the way of dream analysis, what we play with, which is non-interpretive, looking at drama, hey, it's out of Plato. Why? The allegory of the cave. If you understand how to unpack allegories, The very way of understanding allegories is to find their equivalent terms, like what are the objects on that guy's head? Why are they talking back and forth? What's the fire in the background in the cave? Why is there a wide opening in the cave instead of a narrow one, which all caves usually have a narrow opening? So, everything, therefore, has a corresponding term which has to be filled in. That becomes its analog. Therefore, to unpack an analogy becomes a beautiful, precise analogy. Right, the difference between allegories and parables, of course, it's the same thing behind it as analogy. One of the key terms in a parable is always kept as a mystery, and unless you have a key into it, it's dead for you. Which is why, by the way, Christianity is dead, formally, as a philosophical system. There are 32 to 34 parables in the Gospels, but the keys for them, Jesus says, only come from him, and he gives that only to his inner circle, right? Mark chapter 4. Right, now look. Dreams are allegorical expressions of the state of your soul. I use soul. I know I'm old-fashioned. It's the state of the soul, because I think the same definition Saul Plato uses is absolutely valid today. What does it tell you? Man is in a spiritual path. Man is in a spiritual path. That, they can't, you know what? The trouble with philosophical midwifery is you think you're doing something. You're not. You're not. You're in a path. And in that path, that has power, that has intelligibility. You're part of it. Why do I say that? You study your dreams, everything I say can be verified. Right? Everything I say comes out of human experiences. Dreams open up, therefore, the state of the soul in its particular progress. Now, once you get in here, there's a new ballgame. This is the realm where now dialectic plays a role, excellence plays a role, and essentially conflicts, fundamental underlining conflicts. Not personal, but they can be transcendental problems, which is a rather curious way of talking about them. But okay, look here. What does it do? These dreams present the state of the soul, and it fixes where you're stuck, just like midwifery. Where you're stuck in your path. By continually focusing on dreams and therefore exploring them with a dialectic philosophical midwifery, the person then, out of their dreams, brings a level of thought they never anticipated was there. By reflecting upon it, they bring out what they forgot, ignored. This level, what they now emerge, is extremely profound. This is extremely profound. In the people I'm working with, which is our group, by the way, this is, people, we have several hundred, but at any meeting we only have maybe 30 to 40, depending upon what's happening. As an example, using the ideal of excellence in the dialectic, we're now going through Proculus's Elements of Theology. And we have several people in our group who teach classic Greek, and about maybe one-fourth of our members are now reached a high level of proficiency in classic Greek. There are some of them are reading it like a morning newspaper, which is astonishing to me because I flunked several times classic Greek. Not quite, but close. Now look, what happened, therefore, when people are involved in these kinds of things? They're kinds of arts. They're struggling in their arts. They're into an ideal of excellence, such as Proculus's Elements of Theology. We even went into Damascus with Plato's Parmenides. We're doing a big seminar, weekend seminar on Plato's Symposium, which will take two special In other words, 4 sessions, 2 sessions, 4 days on the whole dynamics of the symposium. What does that do as an ideal? It wakes up their dreams. What does it wake up their dreams with? These things that are emerging, which you have to, hey, they don't know it's there. In at least 2 out of 4 cases, it's enlightenment experiences. That's very significant. A different kind of enlightenment experiences. Now, I'm a Dharma successor in Buddhism, right? I've studied all kinds of yoga. I have worked with many, many people who were supposed to be enlightened and were officiated by that and went through all of the signs and symbols that acknowledge it. They all have problems. You know why? Problems are more, ignorance is more powerful than anything in the universe, next to truth. And you know what? The depth of ignorance, enlightenment doesn't touch. I know damn well. I got a couple of enlightenment experiences. I was still a jerk in many ways. Let me tell you, I goofed, right? So I'm a living example of everything I say. Now look, what does this indicate? See, this is very troubling because some of these enlightenment states give the person back into that arena of being free when they were like kids. Now they're walking problems. They got to be warned. They got to be warned. Hey, you know what word it is? Philosophy is not a game you do. If you get into this, it brings you along. And what does it bring you along to? That you're then able to see that the level of intelligibility that we participate in is nothing but mind itself. That's scary. There should be a warning in philosophical practice. Warning, watch out, you're going to be using your mind. Right? I mean it. I mean, I joke, but it's true, isn't it? Learning, hey, academic learning is passed off as something like you can get from the 3 A's. Right? A little license to drive your car. Know the rules. It's absurd. It's empty. We're introducing a level of intelligibility that brings man to a new vision of himself. Look, there are all kinds of visions of man. Man the worker, man the hunter, etc., etc. We have a new definition of man, and it has to come out of philosophical midwifery. Let me suggest what it is, or should I tell you why? I'll tell you what it is, and I'll tell you why. Here it is. The leva, or we could call it Homo sapiens or Homo truth. Only since we always put it back into the Greek, right? Homo, from the Greek for truth is not forgetting. Truth in Greek is aletheia, which is not forgetting, which is very important since it fits so completely with Plato's Meno. Right? Why is it not forgetting? That'll take us a while. Okay. Therefore, homo aletheia. Why? For this essential reason. The one thing that we have to focus on, and I love to see it, is this question is why are people bugged about having a problem? I mean, if they have a problem, you know what they think after being caught? They think they're fools. They're the ones that are guilty for stepping over the line. The others, these become symbols of authority, and that causes all havoc in the world. You know what? Why didn't we believe that? That's the problem. Why do we have anxiety? Why do we feel bad? Why do we have a depression after we encountered, well, I stepped over the line of the family, and now they tell me I'm a you know what? We don't like it. Why don't we like it? Why don't we accept it and say, yeah, that's true? There's something in man that's after truth. There's something in man that is absolutely after truth. It cannot be denied in this game. You know what? We are facing a total, I want to go in the world of politics. Solzhenitsyn, remember, in Gulag Archipelago, he had that great line. All the guys are sitting in jail, right, in the gulags. And they have a game that we used to play after World War II. We used to sit in a pub, right, and we'd see people coming in, and we used to say, he was in the Army, or he was in the Navy, he was in the Air, that's a Marine, and they're civilians. We used to love to see whether we could type them, you know, and a lot of times we could hit it. Can you? Okay, look here. This is the essential part. Why? Look here. There is something in us, there's something strange in us that says, no, 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 we're better than that. No, I don't want to be a fool. No, I don't want to be depressed. I don't want to be put down. There's an urge for freedom to get back into this clear state. That's the search for truth. So Archipelago, Stoltz and Essen, the guys are coming in and they're saying, oh yeah, he's a criminal. Oh, he's not. He was put in for political reasons, and they'd have fun. One guy came in and they couldn't believe it. He wasn't a criminal. He wasn't part of the bourgeoisie. He was a serf. He was a family out of the serfdom. Solzhenitsyn says, I know what it is. Take a look. He's walking with nobility. And he got a $5 for that. Right? Okay. One of our biggest problems we're going to face, we're going to be the center of hostility in a short while. 2 days ago, Obama got before whatever he was talking to, and anyhow, it came in the press. He said, I have a solution to the whistleblowers. I want people in the public offices to look around and see whether they can spot a whistleblower, a man of truth, right, by a profile. We're going to look for them in a profile, and he wanted all the public employees to try to pin down their fellow man to see if they can spot a potential truth teller. Hey, we're the problem. Because this stuff is going to say only one thing. Hey, if truth is so important, say it. Soden said it, right? That great genius. What did he say? And you know what's interesting about Soden is he's not a Democrat, he's not a Republican, he's not a Christian, he's not any religion. He says, look, I'm fed up with lies. I want to tell the truth. I don't care what it costs me. This is a new breed of man. We're seeing a new breed of man coming into existence that's going to change everything. We're part of it. We want to be part of it. That's our job, philosophers. Love of wisdom and truth. That's where we belong. That's the game we should be playing. It's exciting. It's at the highest form of nobility. And you know what? You're going to be dragged along. That's not interesting? You can play it. You think you're doing it. No, you won't. You'll see it spot. You'll see it. You're in it. Now, what is it then? See, the fear of the mind keeps us from discovering what we need to. We have forgotten, we have forgotten what we learned. We have forgotten what we've learned right here. We've forgotten it. Therefore, what is truth? Not forgetting being free. This is what it's all about. And it's a very strange game. It's a magnificent game. It's the only game I play. I'm not interested in anything else. I don't care about anything else. I'm boring normally. But when I get out of this, I'm worse. This is my life. I love the fact that it started a movement that you're all part of. This is where, hey. And by the way, in that book, I have a beautiful model of its research study. So let me just quote something that I change. Imagine coming to quote yourself. That's because occasionally I like it. You know? I read this, I figure, Jesus, really, wow. Yeah, you know, I mean, because it'd be funny if I couldn't. Oh, chapter 2. I got it now. I didn't know where it was.
First page.
It is entirely possible to verify for oneself that we are part of a caring and intelligible universe. The verification is a kind of proof, since it is a way of understanding that's based upon the realization that our mind constantly communicates with us for our benefit. Hey, through dreams, through daydreams, through rational thoughts. You can take, if you want someone to have a talk about their problem, say, how would you like just to daydream? Here's one. I tell people, look here, imagine for the moment that you're wise, totally enlightened. That's all. Okay, now finish the story. You're going home to your friends and people that know you and your colleagues, and go ahead, finish it. What's going to happen to you? Play out the drama, play out the story, and you'll see something remarkable. Well, there are all kinds of 5 different kinds of daydreams. Each one, though, will reveal a problem. Will reveal a problem in your daydreams that your dream is focusing on to show you the conflict in terms of your present and past. They're interrelated. Hey, random thoughts, there aren't any. Man is like this. These are all the things that are important. When you're here, right, as you move up, like in meditation or anything you're doing, these are the blocks as far as you've gone. Echoes of where you were stuck naturally occur from each one of these, and these you have to either deal with or exercise great willpower to break through them for a short while, but they're going to come back. But each one of these can be a subject for exploration. Therefore, there are no random thoughts. I've spent many years in meditation and games. There are no random thoughts. They're all meaningful. Everything is meaningful that comes out of the mind is the mind itself, unfolding itself. The communications for the mind are profound as they are utterly appropriate to our circumstances. And while the scope of the mind is pervasive, its precision is always directed as what is personally significant. Now I'd add, spiritually significant for your stage of development. So I'd have to change it if I read right. We will demonstrate that our choice of goals, the problems we face, the daydreams, fantasies we have, the dreams that visit us in our sleep, each one of them are like doorways into the richest sources of insights into our life, into our spiritual life. We're all here for a purpose. No one was born without a purpose. This whole show we're in is meaningful, and by gosh, it's astonishing to be part of it, right? What we discover through these insights is that the mind itself provides ample evidence of its own goodness and intelligibility. I like it. I wrote it. I mean, Dr. Reflector, right? Right? Yeah. Well, I think I would blow the whistle for a while, and I should say, by the way, very important, I want you to make sure that you meet Regina Uliano over here. She did a validation study on philosophical midwifery. What does that mean? Hey, when you talk to a psychologist or a therapist, psychological therapist, ask them one question. Would you mind telling me whether or not the method you're using has been validated by some formal study? Oh, can you establish what steps you're proposing for my treatment that fits into a diagnostic plan? Oh, you don't have any? What am I here for? As Plato says, Like, hey, this game is the same thing as going on and getting your shoes repaired, your sandals repaired. Would you go to anyone, or would you go to someone and say, have you done this before?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, can I talk to people who shoes you repaired?
Mm-hmm.
Point them out. Oh, were they better than anyone else? Oh, that anyone else could have done? Good. What do you charge? Where do you get your material? Same thing in this game. Right, same thing in this game. So, it's see, I also got into the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and if you want to look at something, Tibetan Book of the Dead can be matched with Plato's Phaedo, and the relationship between the two are astonishingly close, except that Plato goes far beyond what the Tibetan Book of the Dead does, though there are many, many parallels. But what does that say? But you know what? We are here for a purpose. To know the mind. Everybody comes into the world with a problem. I got that from absolutely one of the great authorities in the Western world, my sister. She was a nurse, and her job was to work with newborn infants and prenatals. Right? Know what she said? She said all the nurses can spot different personalities in a child on the day they're born. Everybody comes in with a problem. Hey, everyone is unique. I've talked to hundreds of people, hundreds of dreams. I mean, I've been there for a long time. Hundreds of DVDs. You know what? I am the best documented person in history. Right? How many tapes are around of my stuff? The 50 years.
20,000.
I'm sure.
A lot. That I have.
No, see, there's plenty of evidence for this. It's all over the place. We don't have to do anything but show ourselves as leaders, and that's what we are. Philosophy has to go back and continue the Neoplatonic game. That's where we left off the mind. We have to go back and pick it up. Ficino did brilliantly with it until he was crushed, right? That's where we believe, and that's my game, and thank you. I enjoyed it.
We have some time for questions and answers before.
Yes.
Are you amenable to being interrogated? Or
Yes.
Okay. Could you say a little more about the pathologos? Maybe give us an example of.
Let me give the first case.
pathologos.
Let me give the first case I ever had. Okay, that started the game. This was 1950. Best I can imagine, 58 maybe. Okay. I was working with alcoholics because no one wanted to work with alcoholics. Psychologists want to do it, right? And I was working with the San Francisco welfare department, going to school at night, and that's where I got most of my degrees, working at night, doing these strange jobs. Truck driver also for a while. So I was with this alcoholic, and luckily enough, he was a periodic alcoholic. And I was then assigned to a new rehabilitation center in Redwood City from the San Francisco Welfare Department. And they chose me because I was actually talking to alcoholics. I had no psychology behind me, but this is the days before that was a legal term. So I was the psychologist there, as a philosopher. And they'd come in and I'd say, look, gentlemen, I don't know what to do. I'm just interested in knowing what your last drunk was like. All right, let's just put it on the board. Have big boards? Put it on the board. So we put it on the board. And sure enough, this guy saw something curious, that his drinking behavior fit into a pattern. And we would look at that and he'd say, you know what? Now this is a PhD chemist. He said, you know what? It's curious, that pattern. It looks like, see, this is the model for philosophical midwifery, right? You're going for a goal. Why don't you continue and get it? If you flatten off, why? If you then go into a pathologos, down. Why don't you go further? Why does it end there? How long do you stay there? What turns you around to go up again? This is the cycle. So, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. He said, you know what? He said, I begin to see this as a cycle. I mean, we were looking at the board, we were saying, yeah. He said, right here, something important happened to me. Something important took place. Oh, I said, something important. He said, yeah. Then I'd start drinking. I know I shouldn't drink. Oh, how was it? Oh, for a while it was fine. Then he couldn't stop. So we're talking, and then last trunk he came in and he said, you know, I had a thought. He said, you know, my mother used to tell me before I went out and play, especially he said we used to play street football and play football and rough it up a bit. And she'd always come to the door before I left and she'd give me a hug. It's rare, he said, but I do get a hug at these times, and she'd say, son, I want you to come home either on your shield or with it. She was Greek. That's a Spartan, wonderful world command. He said, you know what? He said, you know what? You know when I hit bottom? I go into the hospital. They dragged me in on a stretcher. He said, oh my God, he said. I said, yeah. He said, I'm living out the game. I said, wow, that's really interesting. What is it about? What is it? He said, then we talked. See, now reflection. He said, this is my mother. Ups and downs. He said, the highest moment when she looks most beautiful and sincere and loving and open is at this moment at the doorway. Hey, when I come back bruised up, that's equally when she shows great concern. Two great moments. When I get that concern, I stay in the hospital as long as I can, and then I start up again. I said, wow. He said, yeah. He said, I see it now. All the way back, I had that problem with lesser things. He said, but you know what, my last drunk, he said, I was ready for a nice big discovery. I said, what's wrong with that? Why is that? He said, I'll tell you. I said, I don't know. We looked at it. All we had to do is ask him, tell me, when this game was going on, what image did you have of yourself? Well, the image he had himself is built into that, right? A warrior image, right? A warrior image. On the shield, bring it or drag yourself on it. I said, look here. If you were to continue and get your goal, he said, oh, I'd lose all this. I'd lose all that. I wouldn't get all that. I said, look at more than that. Would it require then you'd have to have a new image of yourself? That is in principle irreconcilable with this one, with the pathologos. Hey, we are loyal to images of ourselves. they're manufactured in these exquisite scenes of care and love. By the way, you know what that really means? These are virtues: to appear knowing, appear caring, to appear benefiting, right? These are virtues. The appearance of virtue. The appearance of virtue is the origin of vice. And remember, the word virtue in Greek means excellence, arateia. That's a stinky translation of the Greek, but we use it, right? Hey, human problems, no matter what they are, is fundamentally a reason, a cause that we were terribly impressed by the appearance of virtue and we imitated. This is a model we then imitate. Imitation is the key problem. Therefore, my chemist then, he said, what am I going to do? I said, that's easy. We're looking forward to your next drunk. That is, look here, when you now go for your goal and you're getting real close to it, you're going to hear echoes of this. You either are going to follow those echoes and play this out again, or you're going to have to deal with it. That's your moment of truth. That's what you have to focus on. He said, you know what? I'll do it. Ended his alcoholism.
Mm-hmm.
Does that answer what a pathologist said?
Yes, that was an admirable answer.
That
Did
was
you know
the first-
Do you know Greg Bateson by any chance?
Pardon?
Did you ever encounter Gregory Bateson when you were doing all this work?
Do it again?
Gregory Bateson. Does that ring a bell?
Pardon me?
Gregory Bateson.
Oh, Gregory Bateson.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You must have known.
Yeah, see, Gregory, yeah, okay. I don't see that this is anywhere.
No,
Except
that
in
was
those
just a thought. I was
See,
just
all
curious.
this started by a friend of mine, Joe Campbell.
Right.
And I was at St. John's College and was bored by the 100 great books. And I only liked the first 2 years where they were into Plato and Plotinus, and I caused a little bit of trouble there because I used to say, hey, where are the great books compared to the Greeks? What's happened? Like, what's happened? You get into the Greek tragedies, and then you do what we're doing, and you say, what happened to the mind? So I was in touch with Joe Campbell. We used to have coffee down in Greenwich Village, where he lived for a short while. And I said, Joe, what happened to philosophy? He said, Pierre, it's dead. He said, but a friend of mine, Alan Watts, is starting something in San Francisco where you should go take a look at. He said, they're all native philosophers. There's a native Taoist. Right? There's a Buddhist who's Princess Poon from then called Burma. All of the staff, and especially my own teacher, Lama Tata. Lama Tata was a Tibetan monk. By the way, he was Japanese, and he made his way into Tibet alone. I asked him one day, I said, how did you get there? He said, oh, beg. I said, how did you get through Bhutan? He said, oh, took all my clothes off bare ass, no one bothers you, take my cut. And he became the 13th Dalai Lama's teacher. And when he left, they brought the Tibetan Tripitaka with them, and Lama Tata brought the Tibetan Tripitaka into San Francisco, and we worked on it. We worked on several works of Tibetan philosophy. But you see, that started this because Chinese philosophy has many parallels with Plato. I studied with Jiming Shen. We used to sit there and we both laughed at the similarities between the two. And needless to say, there's a part of Buddhism. The nice thing about Buddhism, it has no metaphysics, therefore you don't have to worry about some indoctrination coming on top of you. Why is that important? All the group I knew were Platonists. We could go in there and do our Plato on there on a Buddhist cushion. and gain certain levels of distinction. They didn't know they were they were complimenting or recognizing what we would call Buddhist states, Platonic states of mind in a Buddhist setting. So it's all.
Any other? Does anybody have any questions? We have time for a couple of questions, or at least one question. Anybody have anything else? There's a good chance to ask Pierre.
Well, I'm a substance abuse counselor, and I work with alcoholics all the time. And I try to use some Joseph Campbell hero's journey, you know, death of the old self, right, birth of the new self. And I can't believe that you work with alcoholics. It's great. And I use philosophy. I have my counseling is, I'm calling it philosophy and recovery counseling. Recovery from addiction and alcoholism. I don't know.
Yeah, you look here, you're on a really great topic. And
It's kind of scary. I don't know, you know what I mean?
great
I
topic. Look, what happens to you when you play this game? See, all I have to do is talk to myself. Look, something happens, you see, when you go along this way and you listen to yourself. Therefore, you can have an inner dialogue. You can have an inner dialogue emerges. Now, it's not the same thing as the Platonic, right? Socrates' daemon. His only said no. This inner dialogue that you begin to get with as you reflect on this stuff and yourself, right? You'll hear a voice that will, very gentle but beautiful voice that will say yes. That's the beginning of it. You listen to that, and if you approach it, now you got to dump. This is called the dumping game. All attitudes, all masks, you have to approach it with all sincerity. Then you can then get into a dialogue, see? You can then reveal what's most important. You don't know what it is, so you're reflecting on it, you're working on it. And therefore, the kind of dialogue you get here, you listen quietly for the yes. The slightest deviation, you'll get nothing, and you know you goofed. Therefore, hey, there's a new inner dialogue that takes place, very profound, very beautiful, and it can take on some lovely steps. And if you want a private meditation to explore, where is it? Where is it? Where does it occur? What's listening? What's listening to the, right? What's listening? And that enhances the inner dialogue at a nice fundamental level. Does that help?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this is a lot of fun.
And
See, philosophy's fun.
And after lunch, one of you, I hope, will volunteer to, you're going to give us an actual demonstration of this.
Sure.
So we're going to solicit, one of you hopefully will think about volunteering for this so we can, actually prepare to work in a practical way. Pierre, what I wanted to ask you was, I asked about Greg Bateson because he was trying to use epistemology with alcoholics, right? And he was saying to them, you need a new epistemology, and they were saying to him, yeah, but first I need a drink.
Right.
That's right.
That was,
Yeah, that's right.
But you're different.
That's right. This is episteme.
Yeah, exactly. The episteme is what they need, not the epistemology.
That's right.
But,
Look, there's another part of this. In this book, I related all the major theories of CAS, complex adaptive systems, etc., and Penrose and Hawking's, etc., a whole bunch of stuff. We have a basis now for saying one proposition. Mind is the object of all science. Science is developing by itself different tools. The fullest application of it is to the mind. That's where you can see chaos theory or Clifford's parallels. All of it. You can see it within the mind itself. that's what that started. And in it, by the way, is a model for research, which never took off, of course, because it's rather strange. I used to do research, by the way back when. And time to quit, right?
What's the research? What was the research?
Pardon me?
I thought you were going to mention what the research was.
No, I'd rather not, unless people are interested. No.
So I understand that some of these things will be in your book, and I haven't had the opportunity to read your book, but after you worked with these alcoholics, then where did your work progress from that point?
Oh, see, that was early, okay? Then I had a crisis. I said, Pierre, what are you really? Now remember, this is 1959. Are you a philosopher and you're really a psychologist? Which one of the clothes and which is the sheep? So I said, I know what to do. I'll get another PhD in psychology. So I went to the new school. I got out of San Francisco. San Francisco. Made my way to down here in Greenwich Village, where the New School of Social Research is. Spent a couple of years there until the whole, now picture this, now this is 1961, I think. The whole psychology department is getting together and they're trying to boost the thinker, especially of Dollard and Miller. And they had developed this great model, the approach gradient and the avoidance gradient. And then you can understand all human behavior in terms of these two forces. And they did this great Minnesota symposium series on the motivations called Minnesota Motivation Series. And they represented a study of, I think it was, my number could be off, but I think it was 50 volunteer paratroopers. And they wired them in all of the apparatus they had, just to measure, especially the avoidance gradient. Well, the avoidance gradient, right at this point, anxiety increased tremendously. Or I should put it negatively and put it this way if you'd like. Right? The depths of depression became greater and greater. What was so important about it? As these volunteer parachuters got up to go up the steps of the gangplank into the plane, that shot, avoidance, run, flee, and they kept going. So I turned to the professor giving the study in the class. I said, gentlemen, you're bankrupt. It's bankrupt. They never should have gotten into the plane, and they never should have jumped. What are we doing? Your model fails. They said, maybe you ought to do some other study. I said, yes, I am. Goodbye. So I was working at Motivation Dynamics, one of the earliest firms studying motivation. And I went to my boss and I said, he said, I'll give you a raise. I said, no way. I heard there's a APPA, American Philosophical Council, American Philosophical Association meeting in San Francisco. And, in Santa Monica at that time. And I think I'll go looking for a job. I said, the first people who offer me a job, I'm going to anchor there. So they said, hey, there's an opening in a junior college. I said, I'll take it. Which is where I've been for over 40 years.
Oh, please.
Why? Hey, you know what they did? I didn't realize what a blessing it was. It was a new school. I was the only philosopher. I could do anything I wanted. Hey, for 10 years, then I got another guy. Right? You know what? They just let me play the game. And I turned into all kinds of interesting works and put on all kinds of works. It's really difficult to do that at university, I assure you. Right. Yeah, especially introduced to Book of the Dead in class. It's not normal. Right. Okay, then, so then I went back to San Francisco. Got the job, moved to Southern California, went into junior college. Then we had this Friday night at the school, but they closed us down. Then we went off, and then we started this group, which is where we've been doing the work ever since. Yeah.
Just a quick question.
Last one, Donna, then we have to break for lunch, okay? So go ahead.
I know at one time we had talked a little bit about the pathologos and encountering that,
And did that, one of the reactions might be not simply not achieving your goal or going down, but also perhaps getting sick. We had talked about the application of your model to perhaps with cancer patients, and I wondered if you had done any further work in that area or thought about it?
Yes. Further work. There are two new works of mine out. Okay. One is called The Pocket Pierre. Took this, put in a popular version, and then an accompanying volume, which is all of the questions, the explorations, and it's a companion volume. What's the title of that book?
It's
We were talking about the title.
unblocking.
Yeah, Unblocking Human Problems, I think.
But I think Ron was asking particularly whether you did any work with illness following.
What kind?
Illness, medical illness. You did the
Oh,
the
yes.
cancer studies.
Oh, look, I was invited by Dr. Warner up in Seattle, Washington. He was disbarred, lost his license. They want to take away his MD license from him because he's working with cancer patients, no chemotherapy, no surgery, no radiation, and has a remarkable set of people who are so-called in remission. So they asked me to go up there and make a study of the long-term patients who had the longest term of remission, 10, 20 years. They blocked the study being published because in every single case we found out that the origin of their problem served a milieu problem. Wait a minute. Being a long-term survivor gave them a new authority of being a cancer survivor. That mantle, that title, helped them with all of their past conflicts with the people they lived with and in their world. In every case, it was fundamentally significant. Several of the people came out of the study and they said, within 5 minutes, one person said, look, if that study is ever published and use my name, you're finished. And the funding agency got scared and they said, okay. So I have the tapes and the videos, but in every case it was this. Did that help?
Yes.
Yeah.
Pierre, thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you.
All right.